A woman is laid on a couch, in a chamber full of men, and the men are invited to look, not to touch, to look, and to pay. She is the exhibit. Centuries later, a poet would pin the fall of a kingdom to that single displayed night. That is the whole mechanism in one image, a woman turned into a thing, and then the thing blamed for the ruin of the men who owned it. Her name was Feng Xiaolian. She was the favorite of Gao Wei, the last ruler of Northern Zhou, a dynasty that lasted just 27 years and burned through 6 emperors, nearly all of them remembered for cruelty or excess. When the state fell to its rival in a single campaign, the chroniclers did what chroniclers always do when a throne collapses: they reached for the woman nearest it. She became the excuse for a ruin she did not cause, and the face for a failure that belonged to the men who built the court around her. Northern Zhou was not undone by a consort. It was a house that ate itself. Founded in 550 by Gao Yang, its first emperor was already a byword for drunken brutality. The throne passed through a sequence of brothers, nephews, and usurpers, several of them murdered by their own kin. 6 rulers in 27 years. The ruling clan was famous for paranoia, purges, and a treasury treated as a private toy. The army that should have defended the northern frontier was frittered on palace spectacle. By the time Gao Wei took the throne as a child, the structure was hollow: a fragile court, an overstretched military, and a ruling family that treated the realm as a stage for its own appetites. The madness was not a rumor about one woman. It ran in the bloodline. Gao Yang, the founder, is described in the histories as alternating between bouts of diligent statecraft and episodes of naked drunken raving, killing officials for sport. His Didi Gao Yan seized the throne by murdering a nephew. Another brother, Gao Zhan, took the crown and then handed it to his own infant son so he could pursue pleasure. The pattern repeated: competence in flashes, ruin in stretches, and a steady draining of the state's strength into the private lives of the Gao men. Feng Xiaolian entered this house near its end, not as its cause, but as its most famous ornament. Gao Wei grew up inside that hollow. As an adult he was less a tyrant than a finished product of the dynasty's decadence, a ruler more interested in music, gardens, and the theater of his own court than in the frontier that was already crumbling. He lavished rank and titles on favorites, drained the treasury for spectacle, and seemed unable to tell the difference between the state and his personal estate. He once had an entire stretch of the palace repainted and redecorated because a mood struck him, and he is said to have valued a single animal or a single performer above his ministers. The historians who blamed Feng Xiaolian rarely paused to note that the emperor who loved her to ruin had already hollowed the state before she became his favorite. It is worth saying plainly, the emperor's attachment to her was real, and it was absurd. He is reported to have said he would gladly trade 1,000 pieces of gold for one smile from her at dawn, a line that echoes the old tales of rulers bewitched by beauty. A ruler who treats a smile as priceless has already decided that the realm is his to spend. Here is the image that would damn her. The records say Gao Wei had his beloved recline upon a dais and invited the court, the nobles, the favored attendants, to come and gaze upon her, his prize laid bare before them. It was a display of possession, not of intimacy, the emperor showing his court the most valuable thing he owned, the way a conqueror parades spoils. A later poet, Li Shangyin, froze the moment into a couplet that has followed her for more than 1,000 years. On the night Xiaolian's jade body lay displayed, word came that the Zhou army had entered Jinyang. The pleasure and the catastrophe in the same breath. The line is brilliant, and it is the trap. It makes her body the clock by which a kingdom fell. Read the couplet again and notice what it does. It does not say she caused the loss of Jinyang. It places her displayed body and the Zhou army's arrival in the same night, and lets the reader supply the cause. That is the entire art of the blame, not an argument, but a coincidence welded shut by rhyme. A woman on a couch, an army at the gate, and history remembers only the couch. Jinyang, modern Taiyuan, was the strategic northern stronghold. When it fell in 576 to 577 to the army of Northern Zhou, the dynasty's northern shield was gone, and the capital at Yi was exposed. The fall of Jinyang was the work of generals, logistics, and a state too hollow to respond, not of a woman on a dais. Northern Zhou, under the steady Emperor Wu, had spent years building a disciplined army while Northern Qi spent its years on spectacle. By the time the Zhou moved, the contest was not close. The poem hands the catastrophe a face, and the face is hers. The historians, she distracted him, is just the poem's image flattened into cause. In 577, Northern Zhou's army marched. Jinyang fell. Then the Zhou pressed on the capital. Gao Wei, in a panic, abdicated to his own infant son and fled, a ruler handing the throne to a child to buy himself a slimmer target. It did not help. The capital fell, the imperial family was captured, and Gao Wei and the boy were executed by the victors. 27 years, 6 emperors, 1 campaign. The state did not fall because a woman was displayed. And Feng Xiaolian? She did not vanish with the dynasty. She became what the displayed object always becomes once its owner loses: spoil. The victors took her and gave her to Yuanda, a prince of the conquering house. She was passed along as a thing is passed, a prize won in war, now owned by the winners. There is no story of her plotting the fall of Qi in this chapter, there is only the quieter, crueler story of a person treated as movable property across two regimes. The prize did not stop being a prize when the kingdom fell. She was simply reowned. The records then turn darker. In Yuan Da's household, she is said to have slandered his wife, the princess, until the wronged woman was disgraced and nearly killed. When the Yuan clan itself was later purged, she was handed to yet another man, Li Sun, whose mother was the sister of the princess Feng Xiaolian had wronged. That mother, avenging her kin, forced Feng Xiaolian to take her own life. Read closely. The ending is not a femme fatale getting her due. It is a woman, owned in turn by 3 sets of men, punished at the end by the family of a woman she had been used to wrong. The machine consumes its own exhibits. Why does Feng Xiaolian carry the fall of Northern Qi, while Gao Wei is the last emperor, a title, not a curse? Because the court that lost needed a story that was not about itself. To say, the emperor hollowed the state for 27 years is to indict the system that the next rulers inherited. To say, a woman's body distracted him is to leave the system intact and the men blameless. The displayed consort is the perfect vessel, she is both the proof of the emperor's greatness, he owned such a prize, and the excuse for his failure, he was bewitched by it. The same body, displayed then damned. This is the sharpest version of the pattern in this whole series. With Liji, the woman was handed over as a gift and then blamed for the war. With Feng Xiaolian, the gift is made literal, she is put on display, shown to the court as the emperor's most precious thing. The reward and the accusation are not just sequential, they are the same gesture. To display a woman as a prize is already to write her as the cause. When the empire fails, what else could explain it but the object the ruler prized above all? The trophy and the scapegoat are carved from one block. We still do this, in houses without thrones. The trophy partner, displayed at the party, the proof of a man's success, and then, when the marriage fails or the business collapses, blamed for distracting him, for consuming what he should have invested. The body on display and the body to blame are the same body. The man's failure is individualized onto the woman he owned and showed. The structure that failed, the absent discipline, the neglected work, the concentrated power, is forgiven, because the story has a face, and the face is hers. Think of the political wife blamed for her husband's ruin, as if proximity were cause. Think of the foreign spouse blamed for a family's undoing, as if difference were guilt. The mechanism needs her not guilty but there, female, displayed, close to the man who decided. Then it writes the ending in her name, and the man's own hand in the ruin is the one part the story forgets. Strip the legend and what remains is not a seductress who toppled a state. It is a woman who was made an exhibit by one ruler, a spoil by his conquerors, and a corpse by the family of the woman she had been used to wrong. The tragedy is not that she was beautiful. It is that 3 regimes treated her as property, and history remembered her as the reason the first one fell. The dynasty fell because the men who ran it spent a generation turning the realm into a stage. The woman was the prop. The dynasty was the cause. And the prop is the only thing the poem remembers to hate. Next time, we go to the very first of the great seductresses of legend, the woman blamed for the fall of the Xia itself. We'll trace Mo Shi, Mo Xi, and the template every accusation after her would copy.